right. Hopefully this is going to work. Hey everybody, Aaron from Solace here. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I've had a bit of technical issues trying to get OBS to connect into Twitch. Someone's changed the password on me. So today I'm going to be streaming using StreamYard. So yeah, that's what this is. Little change of pace. So yeah, it might be a little bit different today. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully this goes all right. I got my wired connection today. Last week I had a bunch of issues with audio and stuff dropping out, and the video dropping out. So, I was on Wi-Fi, and that was definitely not a good idea. So yeah, I'm all wired up today. I'm gonna have to go buy a longer cable because it's. I got my router kind of sitting on the stairs here, just because my cable's not long enough. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's see, add some stuff to the stream here. There we go. It's an ugly background. Can we change that? That's better. Whatever. Okay, so yeah, last week, yeah, I had some serious audio problems and stuff, so nobody really joined. This week, hopefully things are better. Happy to be here for the next hour answering questions. I'm gonna do a little poking around on Solace community. I was up really late last night actually doing a bit of code for my colleague Mark. I might actually do a bit of coding while I'm on here, just because I can, if nobody's asking me questions. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up Twitter just to see, to keep an eye on that. So, tweet me at Solace Devs, or come over to the Solace community and post up. If you have a question, come post on the Solace community. I'll be watching that. Here today to answer, yeah, any questions anybody has about all things Solace. Talk about best practices. We're going to talk about topic design. We're going to talk about deployments, all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, notifications here. Let's pop into my notifications. I'm just going to try and keep an eye on Twitter here. Got any questions? Hey, if you got questions, post it on Twitch as well. That's cool. I'm going to try and keep track of everything here. Comments. All right. Right. So, yeah, let me show you some of the code I was working on. There's a simple little kind of rebroadcaster. So my buddy Mark, my colleague Mark, is doing a AsyncAPI stream and needed to have some taxi data. So, I mean, I don't know who out there knows about this, but I wrote this bus demo years and years ago. Originally, it started out as a taxi demo for New York, or for London. But it's just dots driving around on the map, right? So this is simulated GPS data for buses in Singapore. Probably have too many of them. Anyway, so Mark and some of the other guys, people on our team are looking at building a kind of a new demo. Then Google has kind of made available a bunch of taxi data, public taxi data from New York City. And they've posted it, and it's, I downloaded it. It's about 400 gigs worth of live taxi data that Google has enhanced by adding basically updates every couple of seconds as the taxis drive around. So we got a dump of this data. This is not it. But we got a dump of this data, and we're actually going to be using it to build a new kind of all-inclusive, cool taxi demo for New York City. That's going to tie into our event portal. If you haven't seen the event portal, head over to your Solace Cloud, log in there. You can kind of start designing event-driven applications in here. But anyway, so Mark is going to be doing this live stream tomorrow, where he's going to be demoing kind of some integration with this taxi company. And I built basically a restreamer that reads these files and pumps them out as messages. So pretty simple little stuff. It's just a loop. Loads up a file, and then basically reads all this data and builds payload. I do a little bit of tweaking on it. I kind of fix the timestamp to be current. And then I build a custom topic, right? So the whole thing around Solace, one of the big things around Solace is that, we have this capability to do dynamic topics. People that come from MQTT world are very used to this. People that come from MQ and EMS world are completely not used to this. They think of topics as a destination, something that you connect to. You connect to a topic. Now, man, like topics belong on, and topics are like message metadata, right? Every time you publish a message, it can have its own unique topic. You can see here that we have, every topic that we publish includes the ride ID, so like essentially a GUID, includes the latitude and longitude of that particular update. So very, very, very dynamic topics. And that's represented in, pop over back into here, into our designer. Yeah, look at them all. Here we go, New York taxi data. Let's double click on that. And take a look at the events. There's only one right now. It was two before. I don't know where it went. Take a look at this. Let me zoom in a bit here so that's readable. Yeah, so here is the taxi, the topic structure, right? Taxi NYC V1, blah, blah, ride status, count, ride ID, longitude, latitude. In terms of the order of these, I have some, Mark and I are going to probably tweak this a little bit, but as of right now, this is what the topic looks like. And then if you want to look at the payload, this is, if you've never seen this before, by the way, this is Solace's event portal where we support the AsyncAPI specification for defining event-driven applications. Very similar to Swagger, very similar to OpenAPI for REST applications, but this is for PubSub. And so this is what the schema looks like. It's based on JSON schema, so if you're familiar with that, it should be fairly straightforward, kind of required field. Oh, they actually do define the timestamp here. Okay, that's as an example. Yeah, so my timestamp doesn't quite look like that. I gotta fix that. So the required fields, and then for each of those fields, kind of some description. Is it a string? Is it an integer? Da 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 da. So you can take this and then go ahead and actually build code, right? So that's what Mark's live stream is going to be about tomorrow, which is pretty cool. What I want to show you, right? So what was the point of what I was saying? Back here, this is my string builder, and then you basically, yeah, so every time it reads a message, it parses out the JSON. Let me pull up my shell. Well, it's really small. This is the first one. So yeah, so I've downloaded 1 day's worth of data, and it was 40 gig. So quite a lot. Let me zoom in here. Let me zoom in, and then set. This is us. There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is what each line or each message looks like, right? So essentially, the ride ID, the point ID. That's is basically the as the ride goes along, as the taxi drives along, every update that it sends kind of has its increasing number. So if you filtered on one particular UID, you would see this point UX kind of going up and up. Latitude and longitude, obviously some rounding errors here, floating point rounding errors, timestamp, and then gets into things like how much the meter is, right? So you can actually track them and whatnot. So this is the data that's been released. It was released, made public by the New York taxi company, and then Google's amplified it to have actually kind of incremental updates as a position runs along. So that's what we're building this demo on. So yeah, pretty cool. I'm going to eventually probably take some of that data and redo my bus demo here. So this is my bus demo. This data is was simulated. It was generated using Google's directions APIs. But now that we have access to kind of real, taxi data from New York, I think that'd be probably cooler to look at, So I'll probably go do something like that. Anyway, but once we have that, we can start doing more fancy things like doing our geo filtering. So Solace has the capability using topics to actually filter by geography, right? So if you take a look at going back to that code for a second, we have the latitude and longitude as part of the topic string, right? If we can take a look at the actual raw feed here. Let's just pop over Let's go to messaging services here. So this is my Solace Cloud instance. I'm just going to connect to the one I use for my demos. Go to the Try Me tab here. This basically allows us to like snoop on messages that are being published inside my Solace broker here. Just subscribe really quickly. Subscribe really quickly. This is what my bus topics look like. Geo bus, blah, 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 blah. You can see that the latitude and longitude are encoded in here. Very similar to the taxi demo, except the latitude and longitude are at the end. And because the latitude and longitude is actually in the topic string, then we can do filtering on it. You know, Solace, we do filtering based on topics. So if, you know, and this is in the broker. So, you know, even if there's, you know, 10,000 messages a second being published into your broker, but you only want to receive, you know, data from, you know, this small area, you know, this is actually being filtered in the broker. This is not, it's not like, you know, Kafka streams where you actually have a consumer that is kind of receiving the full topic, you know, of all the data and then having to filter it based on kind of the payload, right? This is actually filtering based on topics out the broker. So anyway, yeah, so that's what I was up doing last night, was doing a bit of coding for this. And part of this is going to tie into the new Solace samples that you know, we in the DevRel community are building. You know, Solace has, you know, we have a lot of samples, but we're looking at kind of improving the getting started experience for new Solace developers to make it a little bit easier to get up and going. So yeah. Anyway, let's pop over to Solace community and see what's going on there. I gotta finish. I have a actually have an update for this demo. That is pretty cool. I gotta finish it and get it live. By the way, the code that is responsible for doing this geospatial filtering is going to be posted on GitHub at some point fairly soon. People that want to build demos that have the ability to do this geospatial filtering are going to be able to. It's not very complicated. Well, actually, somewhat complicated. But in order to publish your data to allow it to be filtered, it's pretty straightforward. You might notice here, when I publish the latitude, longitude, it's part of the topic. This is the taxi demo again. I do a string format of, you know, these latitude and longitude. Latitude and longitude, these are just doubles. So latitude and longitude doubles. But if we go take a look at the format, this is how it formats it. It basically has to be a zero padded floating point number of a certain amount of decimal precision. So you'll notice there that, you know, if I take a look at my bus data, 001, you know, 0103. You could say, well, why do you need, you know, 3 decimal places for latitude and latitude, right? Because it only goes up to 90. So plus or minus 90. Well, when you have a minus sign, you know, this first level is a minus. So we need that zero padding to ensure that whether it's positive or negative, it's still going to take up the same amount of characters because of the way that we do our topic. So yeah, just a slight tweak to how you publish the latitude and longitude as part of your topic string. You know, don't just dump the float into your topic. That's not quite good enough. You need to tweak it. You need to tweak it a little bit there. But if it's this particular format, then you can easily add, you know, geospatial filtering at a later point inside your application. Cool. All right. Let's turn off this bus demo. Okay, so yes, big announcement tomorrow. My buddy Mark, colleague Mark, is going to be, well, tomorrow Singapore time. I guess this is actually on June 30th, which is technically today in Singapore. But he's going to be presenting this on designing, taking this taxi application that we have in the event portal, and then making it into an actual application using Spring Cloud Streams. So pretty cool about that. So this will be 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Singapore time tonight. Is that tonight? Yeah. And then 9 a.m. to 11 tomorrow, July 1st. So July 1st, happy Canada Day to all my Canadian friends. Here in Singapore, we don't get the day off, but I will be tuning in 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Singapore time to watch this particular workshop. So if you're interested in learning about AsyncAPI and Solace's code generation integration using the portal, using AsyncAPI, be sure to check this out. Details are all here on the community, right at the top, solace.community, and sign up for this virtual event to participate, to watch all. All right, let's take a look at some questions here. Let me just check Twitter, make sure nobody's tweeting at me. Nobody ever tweets at me, so that's all right. Yeah, nothing there. Anything on the chat? No chats. That's fine. That's fine. I wonder if anybody's watching. Maybe not. I don't promote this, so that's going to be kind of difficult to get some people just joining randomly. But hey, you guys use Solace? Anybody use Solace out there? I'm free and here to answer questions an hour a week. Happy to do it. So colleagues, friends, come join. Tell me if it's all good. All right. I'm really excited about the new Solace Java API that's coming out soon. I kind of helped a little bit on that in terms of developer feedback. But yeah, the API is going to be brand new. We got a brand new Java API coming out, super modern. The current Java API that Solace uses, called JSON, is Solace's oldest API, actually. And it dates back to when Solace used to do content routing as well as topic routing. 99.999% of people that know Solace know that we route messages or events based on topics. But in the early days, Solace used to actually be doing content routing. It would actually look at XML documents and route based on content using XPath subscriptions. Very cool. And this was done in hardware. Solace used to be a hardware company. And so a lot of the Java API, the JSON API, used to be about XML routing. So you see these terms XML everywhere. So bytes XML message, there's XML producer and XML consumer, and all sorts of XML words. It's all just legacy naming. We don't do anything with XML anymore specifically. So revamping the Java API, modern API supporting Java 8, lots of newer Lambda and streams and all sorts of newer functionality, and just making it a lot better. We got a really switched on API guy writing the entire thing. So I'm really looking forward to when that comes out. The direct messaging capability, our non-persistent messaging capability, will be due out, I don't know, soon, end of July or August, I think. And then persistent messaging, towards the end of the year. It's a little bit more complicated. But yeah, it's the start of some really good news in the Solace API space, because our APIs haven't received that much love in the last couple of years. It's been a big focus on cloud and Solace Portal, and before that, the Solace software broker, getting all this stuff up. But the from the API side, we haven't really done very well. Oh, we've done open APIs, right? So we built our capability to do support MQTT as a protocol. We have AMQP 1.0 as a protocol. In terms of the Solace native APIs, like our actual kind of proprietary ones, we haven't updated those in quite a while. So exciting stuff. We're gonna have a Python API coming out. We're gonna have a Go API hopefully sometime next year. Very, very cool. So in not only supporting our open protocols, but also Solace's fully featured protocol SMF as well. This is something I actually need to respond on, because I know the answer to this. Looking for how, hey, so AA Lock, I like your name, because I'm AA Ron. Looking for help on how to install PEM certificates and using .NET code. All right, so two things, I guess. One, you need to do the .NET side, and two, you need to actually install the certificates on the Solace side, right? So let's walk through this. So I'll respond to this. See, I actually started to type out my response here, sitting in drafts. But all right, let's take a look at this. Let's talk to this. All right, so first thing to do, go over to Docs. Docs.solace.com is your one-stop shop for all things Solace documentation. That's really zoomed in. That's really big. Let's see here. So first things first, how to install a certificate. Let's see. That will be under managing your brokers, then configuration. I don't know why configuration is stuck way down there, but this is like kind of one of the most important sections of our documentation is kind of how to actually implement certain features. Then I could do a search. There's always, the search is actually really good, but I'm gonna see if I can just poke around and find it here. This is an exciting stream. I'm sure people are tuned in and just riveted by me kind of just browsing around inside our documentation here. Hey, but I want a real question. I want a live question. If there's anybody out there to send me one. Oh yeah. I should add some music or something to make this a little bit more exciting. Yes, configuration. Okay. I don't care. All right, certificates. Managing certificates. Here we go. Let's see. Was I close? No, it's down in security. Oh, okay. All right, so this is what we want to do. First thing we're going to do is load in a certificate. Blue, blue, blue. This is how you do it. You're going to need access to the CLI, right? You're going to need access inside the broker to actually do this. So this is something that you can't do via the PubSub+ manager. You can't do this via the GUI tool currently. The GUI tool, the PubSub+ manager is great at doing anything within a VPN. Once you have your VPN configured, creating usernames, creating queues, ACLs, all that kind of stuff. That's what the PubSub+ manager is great at. Setting up the broker in terms of system level stuff is still a little bit of work to do still. People that know our solid min GUI, our admin GUI solid min, it's a Java thick client. I'm pretty sure you can use that for doing this, but I'm used to CLI. So this is how you're going to do it. Hey, let's actually, let's pop my shell up here. Put that. What are we doing here? Let's go. Let's boot up a SSH tunnel here. Dun, dun, dun. Is that gonna work? Do I type too fast? Oh, it seems to be working. So if that's working, I should now be able to SSH to local port 2023. Sweet. I've opened up the tunnel to my solid software broker running in my lab. Can you read that? Is that good enough? So ncon SSL. Enable config SSL. You're going to the SSL thing, and then you're going to do server certificate file name. So how do you actually have to copy it on first? So that's what this first thing is. How to SFTP it into the right directory. This needs to be in the search directory. So if you were, let's go back to privilege mode. So when you first log into CLI, you can actually use kind of these shell commands. I don't know if everybody knows this. If you're using Docker, it's a little bit easier. You can just copy a file into kind of the right volume. But if you're using, you want to do it through the CLI, this is one way to do it. So log into CLI. You can see when I do a dir, you can see all the kind of directories. Now these are located under what's called the jail. The jail is kind of the spot in the file system where the broker can actually kind of see and interact with, well, the user can from a admin user kind of person capability. So certs is where I want to copy stuff. So I can actually go cd certs. Or look here, you can see I got some VMR PEMs here. And we're going to use this copy SFTP command. So we need to basically have it hosted somewhere that I can copy it out. There are other ways to do it as well, but basically you need to first copy your certificate into that spot. Let's see. Let me show you another way of doing it. This is actually a log into the lab here. I'm just going to SSH into the lab. So just kind of work. There we go. Now root on my personal box, Docker PS. You can see that I have. It's a 9.2 VMR, or software broker, so a little bit old. But I have all of the file systems put here under op. So TVMR and here jail. So this is actually looking at the exact same files. This is where Docker kind of keeps all their files for the actual software broker. So if I can see here in certs, I have these two VMR PEM things. I can go certs. Here we are. So this is the kind of on the Linux side, kind of looking at the actual same directory. So if I copy the file in here, I think you might have to tell Docker to refresh itself somehow to kind of pick up those changes in the file system. There's some tricks around that. That's the one way to copy the files into the broker. Once that's done, then you just need to basically tell it to use it. Server certificate, that's about it. And as long as it's correctly formatted, it'll just work. Do I actually have a server configured? I do have it configured, okay. I think this is self-signed though. I think this is just, I made this in the lab. So I don't think it's actually very exciting. VMR2, let's take a look. Probably don't want to be showing this. Well, it's like I said, it's self-signed. Now, one thing that trips up a lot of people, including me when I first did it the first time, is this PEM file needs to have both the certificate and the private key installed in it. Yeah, I can't believe I'm showing my private. No, he's going to actually do this because they have to log in. Actually, I'm going to change it after this webcast anyway. So, but what am I going to say? Yeah, the PEM file needs to contain both of those things. So that I'm pretty sure that's now quite clear in the documentation, but keep that in mind. Okay? I'm sure somewhere in here it kind of explains both the PEM and the PEM file needs to contain the certificate and the private key. So once you do that, that's loading this thing into the broker. Then you need to make sure that your actual your broker's TLS ports are exposed. So hopping back over here again, if I go into my Docker container, so if I had actually wanted to do this, I go config and then SSL, and I'd say server certificate, and then it needs file name. That's where you put the file name. So once that's done, then if you did a show service, you can take a look at all the different ports that are exposed on your particular broker. And so in this first column here, this is the transfer protocol. Then it's S for secure, SSL, yes or no. And you can see that port 55555. This is the default Solace port for Solace messaging APIs. 55443 is the default secure port for Solace messaging. And even though you can see admin up, this is whether it's enabled or not, whether I've actually kind of created and configured that particular port. The O, this is operational, whether it's actually operational up or not. And so before you have a server certificate installed, these are all going to be Ds. All of the operational is D because you need to have a the server certificate installed. But now that I've installed a server certificate, it's showing up for that. Where do you configure these things? You go into service and then SMF. If you want to do SMF, you want to configure a TLS or an SSL TLS port or MQTT or AMQP. You choose that particular service here. And then you can see here, listen port, if you wanted to change this, right? So, but once you've enabled it, then you do no shutdown and turn that. Okay, so that is on the broker side, getting the certificate installed. This is long and rambling, apologies. Next is, where'd it go? Right. Next is then some .NET code. Okay, so we've installed the certificate, we got that. It looks like it should be working. How to use it with .NET. Now, so Solace samples. First, I'm going to show you where it should be located, but it's not yet. So github.com/Solace samples is our kind of first stop for where people go to look for their various Solace samples. Let's just do a search for .NET. Oh, wow. This is where it should be, but I'm going to show you that it's, I'm pretty sure it's actually not here. So I'm going to show you the second place to go and look. Firm delivery, blah, 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 blah. Features, hopefully it'd be under features, man. This is where I'd want it to be. No, it's not. Okay, so where else can you find samples for Solace? I will show you. This is the old school way of doing things. Downloads. On our downloads page, solace.com/downloads, where we have all of our APIs, all of our brokers, all of our images, various support software like the load testing tool, SDK Perf. This is where you find all this stuff, solace.com. And here, if you go down to the bottom, here's our various APIs. So Java, iOS, C, .NET. If you download this, the .NET C# version, actually I have, so I'm just gonna hop back over here. Yeah, sure. We're in my downloads. Let's zoom in a little bit here. LS, I forget what it's actually called. It's all, yeah. CD, here is my .NET downloads tarball. And if you head over to examples, there is quite a few more sample examples that you can load into your Visual Studio projects, versions here. So one of them that this particular person, Alok, what was your name again? Sorry. Alok. Yes, Alok. That you might want to look at is which one? Oh man, I was looking at this earlier. Blah 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 blah. Come on. Oh, right at the end. Ha! Good old secure session. This is what you want to figure out how to connect to the Solace secure port. So this is where you go run this thing. Once you've gotten your certificate installed and everything, you run this particular thing. It's quite a lot of command line parameters here, right? Holy moly! Trusted names, cypher suites. You can see all the different stuff. Now, if you don't know, on the broker, you can kind of configure which which cypher suites are available. So if your particular bank or company has requirements and restrictions on which ciphers are allowed to connect to, you can actually restrict those inside the broker. I forget how to do it though. Show SSL cipher suite list. No? Default. Okay, so this is the cipher suites that I guess I'm allowed to see. Show supported. Show SSL supported cipher suites. That's all of them. Right. And so then you can go ahead and actually configure, say, well, I don't want to support this or I don't want to support that. You can turn those things off. Now, can't see my keyboard here. Tab. I'm using tab. For anybody that doesn't know CLI that well, pressing tab all the time will always show you kind of what's available to be run there. So as I poke around, as I type in show, I hit tab twice. These are all the different things I can do a show on. So show me, I don't know, the username, and then it's like press tab again twice. You can see all the list of usernames, or you can press star. These are all the users I have configured on this particular broker, for example. Show me all the queues. Show queue star. There's all my queues. Take a look. So show SSL is where you're going to find all things related to security, allowed TLS version. Oh, look at that. Only 1.2. So if you need to be able to add, all right, show SSL supported TLS versions. So if you need to enable 1.1, you can do that, right? Here's as an example. So I guess it's unenabled, disabled. It's disabled by default, but there you go. So I hope that answers your question, Alok. Sorry for the long rambling answer. I'll type something up here later in here, but hopefully that helps. What else do we got? Let me check my tweets. Is anybody gonna tweet at me? I'll be amazed. This is the first day someone actually tweets at me. I don't like using Twitter anyway. That's fine. Do. Dun, dun, dun. Topic names and cues. Did we talk about this last week? I can't remember. Oh yeah, I did this two weeks ago. Yeah. Excellent. Having published on topics, subscribe on cues. That is the Solace way. That is the only way that you should be doing things. Well, not the only way, but that's 99% of the time the way you should be doing. So if you need to do persistent flows in Solace, persistent messaging between your applications, you still publish on a topic. Always publish on topics to enable that pub sub event-driven style of communication. And then if you need that persistent, then you're going to have a queue configured that it's going to attract that particular topic, that is subscribed to that topic. Right? I still got my SSH tunnel here set up. Ooh, nope. Wrong port, right? Yes. I made different ports when I do my SSH tunnel so that I don't clash with if I have a broker running locally. So PubSub Plus Manager, creating queues. Here's all my bunch of different queues. Wow, I got some crap in some of these queues. If you don't know about like how to create queues in Solace, and about how topics, adding topic subscriptions to them, I have a couple videos on this. Check out our YouTube channel. Someone actually just pointed to me, my colleague Deshant. If you just type in Solace into YouTube, what am I doing here? YouTube. If you just type Solace into YouTube, it doesn't always show. It does search for. It's a very common word, right? So it's going to show you like things like quantum of Solace, and sometimes it's hard to find. Nothing about Solace, the company. Oh, there it is. Actually, that's not too bad. Hey, there's me. But if you search for solace.com, we're right at the top. Or we're not. Well, the company's not at the top. I think my videos are at the top. I guess I'm promoting myself here. Anyway, the one I wanted to show was the queues one. So inside our this still says, see, it says all the systems up there. I want to change that. Inside this list, there is, go to the bottom. Take a look at the uploads. This will be the in order. It's how to make a queue. 4 different ways on how to make a queue. Most people only know about 1 or maybe 2 different ways of doing it, right? But this is 4 different ways to make a queue. I'd be surprised if, well, how many people know all 4 different ways? Probably some people. Experienced Solace people should know all 4 different ways because, yeah, it's important. Hey, so one thing I got coming up, it's kind of already been featured here. Did you see that? This. Uploads. This hasn't happened yet. This is a reminder for the future. So this is something I'm going to be doing next week. Next week on Thursday, July the 9th, is I don't know anything about Kafka. Well, I know a little bit about Kafka, but I've never actually downloaded it and played with it. But I'm going to be doing a live stream event with my colleague Heinz, where we're going to install Kafka connectors. We're going to install the Kafka connectors for Solace into the Kafka's Connect cluster that allows the bridging between Solace event brokers and Kafka brokers using dynamic topics, using cool stuff. And there's both a source and a sync connector, and that's what we're going to be doing. And so that's pretty cool. So my plan for probably tomorrow is to actually download Kafka and start playing with it. I've talked about it a lot, but I've never actually done firsthand experience. So it's going to be, oh, they got the description. Hey, they made the description. Check that out. Join me and Kafka Noob. I'm a Kafka Noob, where I'm going to download this thing. And yeah, my colleague Heinz Schaffer is going to be on there, and it's going to be great. And then towards the end of the month, I'm going to be building a code lab that's going to help people walk through it. If you can't wait for that, there's actually, Heinz made a video about this maybe a year ago. If you come in here and you search our videos for Kafka, right here. Nope. Well, where is it? I have to scroll really far down. That's not. Why aren't you showing me what I want to see? This one. Oh my gosh, it's right at the top. How to install the Solace plug. Yeah, so this is a video that Heinz already did. It's got almost 1,000 views. That's great. I'm hoping to drive a little bit more traffic to it. Heinz goes into really detail and shows you how to walk through and how to get it all installed. So we're going to be doing this live next week, and hopefully it nothing explodes, nothing breaks, because like I said, yeah, it's going to be all right. What do we got? Hey, so shout out to this user Lily Vesky. Has come up with some pretty cool tips and tricks. Kind of looking deep inside our API to be able to ACK messages individually. This is something that customers have asked for. Not individually. Being able to ACK a message by an ID rather than needing the message object itself. So currently in the Solace APIs, you have to maintain a reference to the actual object, message object. So, which means that, for example, in Java, you need to keep the message in memory, and maybe you don't want to keep that message in memory. Maybe you're going to be processing it, a couple minutes away, and you strip out the important pieces that you need out of the message, the payload or whatever, and then you just want to, at some point, ACK the message later on, but not actually have the original message, because part of your flow maybe is to send it to some downstream processing, and it's going to get processed later. There is no concept of a Solace message down there that is just taking your payload and maybe the topic and doing some work. So this guy or gal, this Solace user here, figured out how to kind of basically send an ACK using the Solace message ID using some casts. Now it's not documented, so officially we can't say that we support it, but it does work. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, this is something that customers have asked for. So if you really want a cool way to be able to ACK using message ID, I'd suggest you check this out here. I was going to post up saying that it's not quite official, but hey, it does work, right? So that's pretty cool. But this is something that people have asked for, and maybe this should we should go back to our product line management and make sure that they build this into our new APIs, especially our new Java API that's coming out, right? Our current Java API, JCSMP, our C API, our .NET API, they were all built a while ago, and they were all built to kind of be very similar in their functionality. So when you go looking through our documentation, pop up to developing applications, the Solace Messaging API developer guide. This developer guide was written primarily for C, .NET, Java, and our JavaScript API, and all of their functionality are quite similar. And so kind of if you expose functionality in one API, we kind of want to make sure that it's available for all others, not always. But our new Java API is kind of a break from these. We're kind of rethinking the way that we're doing the API. We're exposing different capabilities. And hey, being able to ACK by a message is, in my opinion, is actually very useful. And to this guy's or girl's point, let's go back here. I did make a comment saying that they were poking around in this flow handle, poking around in the implementation classes. So even though these classes are public, they're not documented. So technically, you're not supposed to be looking at them, right? But they're saying that this is actually capability in a lot of other brokers, which, hey, I agree with you. It's a big memory waste. Well, I call it a huge memory waste because you still need to keep around most of the message. It's probably the payload is going to be most of it. Anyway, I agree. It'd be cool to be able to have this. Too bad you have to hack it. It works for now. That's great. But this is good feedback that we're going to send into our team back in the headquarters to maybe develop something a little better around there, right? Why not? Oh, why are these colors so funny? I was playing around with Eclipse. I downloaded the new version of Eclipse. I'm still using Eclipse. God, it's old software now, you know. But I was playing around with it because there's now. I want to try this, you know, the dark theme. They were talking about they fixed the dark theme to make it look better. Has anybody seen it? I was coding on it last night and it was actually driving me nuts. I switched back to the theme. Couldn't take it anymore. Check this out. It's okay, but I mean, man, this is Eclipse. It's old. These widgets are not quite Visual Studio Code, and you know IntelliJ looks so much nicer. It looks so pretty, but Eclipse just has so much functionality. It's not the prettiest, but it's still the best. It's still the best. This is what the Eclipse dark theme looks like. I don't know. What do you guys think, guys and gals? Whenever I say guys, it means, you know, boys and girls. Yeah, I don't know if people misinterpret to think that I'm speaking only to men, but I really do mean guys in kind of a non-gendered way. So if you ever hear me saying guys, hi guys, I'm not. I say that I call girls guy. So apologies if anybody is offended with that, but I really don't mean to say guys only, like boys only. Hey, you know, when you're building, a lot of people, when they're building their topics, they use, you know, plus, the string plus operator. That is fine if you're doing, you know, a couple hundred messages a second, maybe a couple thousand messages a second. But I've done a bunch of performance testing with, you know, have some, you know, my fast direct publisher application here, which has a kind of a tight loop, and I publish messages. And you can see here that even though my topic is very short, so this is my topic line here. Create a topic. I use a string builder, errand test, and then I append on this character of the moment, and on a chart on the end of it, just have a dynamic. You could say, well, that's like really short. That's essentially taking two strings and just use, so it's just one plus modifier. It is still faster to make a new string builder, initialize it with a string, append something onto it, whether it's another string or a char, and then do a two string. It is faster to do it that way than using the plus operator. The plus operator is really for convenience. And you should, if you're doing any kind of performance application, never use plus. Use plus in your exceptions, strings, or, you know, when you're first connecting. But in any kind of performant bit of code, like, you know, where you're publishing messages, a lot of messages, you know, this loop here can run at a couple 100,000 messages a second, you know, doing direct messaging. You can't be using plus. It's just going to slow you way, way, way down. So actually, yeah, right, yeah, actually say it. Do this. Keep this in mind. You know, people don't, until you've actually written really hardcore performance code, you sometimes don't know what things trip you up. I've had customers that wanted to build something to measure latency. You know, they want to measure the difference between when I publish a message, when I subscribe to a message, what is the delta, you know, as it goes through the broker. And, you know, they're at first running these on different hosts. I'm like, well, the clocks aren't that accurate. You have to run on the same host. They were doing things like when they received the message, they would calculate the delta in the callback and then print things out to the screen. You know, as soon as you do any kind of console I/O, you know, your latencies are going to be impacted there. You know, if you publish too slow, you know, your CPU is not going to keep that certain kind of part of the code hot. It's going to swap things in and out of the CPU cache, so your latency is going to suffer. All sorts of like tips and tricks and things that, you know, when you start to build really performance-oriented code, maybe you don't know. And one of them for me was, yeah, the fact that the plus operator is super, super slow. It's totally just for convenience. Use a string builder if ever you need to do any kind of real kind of performance-oriented code. Not to say that this is very performant. I mean, I'm building JSON objects here in a tight loop and publishing. It's all kind of linear, synchronous. It's not the most performant, but I think it's just a best practice to. You need to append together a lot of stuff. You know, you're building a topic. You know, lots of different levels. Another convenience one is a string format, right? String.format, where you can specify string equals, you know, something like %s slash %s slash %b, something like that, right? And then you're going to do string new topic equals string dot format, and you'll have your format object, and then you need to populate it, right? So the first level might be your prefix, right? So I already have something called prefix, kind of your root of your topic, which is up here. Patsy, it's first couple levels. You know, this is defined as kind of your root of your topic, so that all of your applications are kind of talking with the same root. The next level might be your, I don't know, your publisher ID or something, right? Maybe in this case, ride ID. Let's take a look at that. So ride ID, and then maybe an int. I don't know. This point IDX is an int. There you go. So, you know, from a readability perspective, that's not bad, right? You got your format, and then you just say string.format, you kind of just populate it as you go. But again, this is slow. This is slow. This is great if you're doing kind of for convenience, if your application is not publishing that fast. But as soon as you get above a couple thousand messages a second, I would really consider thinking about string builders. As a tip of the day, Aaron's Java tip of the day. I've done enough performance testing to realize. That said, this is a bit more readable, isn't it? You kind of see exactly what you're building here with your topic. All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour. I know I started late, but you know, I don't know how many people are out there. I'm sorry for being late, by the way. Next week I'll be a little bit more on time, and next week hopefully I'll be sharing with OBS rather than the StreamYard stuff. For anybody that thanks for joining. And you know, I'm gonna make this. This will probably be posted onto YouTube at some point if anybody wants to sit back. But yeah, I'm here every Tuesday, noon till 1 Singapore time. I guess that is what 1 to 2 Tokyo time, 2 to 3 Sydney and Perth time during the Australian winter. You know, whatever. I guess 9:30 a.m. in India. Happy to be here and answer any questions. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me just hit Twitter, refresh Twitter one more time. Solace Devs on Twitter. Come on to Twitch. Follow me here. Send me a message. Post on Solace Community. I keep an eye on that while I'm doing my broadcast here. Let's go back. Let's refresh it one more time. I would love it if people start asking me questions on Solace Community and say, hey, can you answer this on your video? That'd be great. That'd be really cool. Yeah. One day that'll happen. All right, so thanks everybody. Thanks whoever's out there and listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.